Alright, today is a very exciting day in the Oakwood Zoo. Today we are building the Capybara Enclosure in the Americas Pavilion, the last enclosure left for the outside boardwalk, so let's get right into it. Alright, so hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Oakwood Zoo. So we've been kind of touch and go, moving around the park a lot recently. We've done, the last couple episodes have been in the desert house. We've done the honey badger and the fennec fox, so we kind of covered one of the new animals for the Asia pack. And I know I do want to get back into the new pack animals, but I just, again, like I've said, it doesn't really fit in too well with my plan. So I'm really trying to finish up South America first, and then we can move on to stuff like that. But we do have to finish stuff up first, and one of those things is still very exciting to me. It is the Americas Pavilion, probably our longest ongoing project within the Oakwood Zoo. And this is a project that has been, again, it's been a very timed project in the making, because again, even before we got the zoo back, like I think since the time we got the zoo back earlier this year in like March or April, we've done about like 12 episodes of this, counting this one now. And before we got it back like a year and a half ago, we had a good amount of episodes. We had like 20, 30 episodes. And in those episodes, we had a couple episodes that we actually built this building. So this building isn't actually like one of the really new things that I've made. It's instead been renovated significantly, that the entire inside has changed, the entire outside has changed. We did have a capybara enclosure here on the outside from before, but it has been demolished and we have remade it to look a lot better, which is what we were building in this episode specifically. You can't see the old habitat because I got rid of it before, but in this episode we will be building a new enclosure for the capybaras in the place of that old one. And also in that old one, we had the Baird's tapir as well as the capybara, like in the same habitat. But I think in this one, in the other enclosure, it was kind of like a bit too crowded, and it was really hard to make like the entrances from like the indoor to the outdoor area because the Baird's tapir were so big. So instead, I decided to make it just for the capybaras this time because I wanted to give them their own central like little habitat and their little moment in the sun. And I think it turned out really nice. I think I always want to do because again, this is part of a boardwalk series. We've done the tapir, we've done the flamingos, and now we've done the capybara. All three of these species you see when you go on a wooden boardwalk all the way around the pavilion before you go inside of it. And in all three of these enclosures, I wanted to make something kind of different and something new about them. In the tapir episode, that was just like the starters, so we actually, the unique thing was actually building the boardwalk. In the second episode with the flamingos, we made a lot of cool different ponds, and also the backstage building was really cool, and it really fit nicely into like the tropicalness. And in this enclosure, I wanted to do, it was actually a bit harder to do something unique for this one because there's not really a lot of cool stuff you really find in capybara enclosures. But with this one, I took inspiration from my own local zoo, and that inspired me to add a waterfall to this, and a layered waterfall. So I tried my best to make it like, I used the fill rocks on like the back wall. Again, I contemplated using the stalagmite pieces, but it just wasn't really doing it for me. It didn't look that good, and especially because it's so much more pieces to use the stalagmite pieces when it can look just as good, if not better, when just using the faux rock pieces, which are a lot less pieces and just look pretty much like give off the same kind of effect and satisfy me the same way. But anyway, using those, I tried to leave a bit of a gap in between the rocks, and then did a limestone or concrete, I think it was actually concrete, that was colored, and I used that as the backdrop for the waterfall. And then I tried to make sort of like a vent piece, a part where the water is actually coming out of, because obviously this is not a natural waterfall. It's not coming off of a river or anything. It is man-made, so the water is actually being like structured to come out of a certain like mechanism. So I tried to make it kind of similar to that. I tried to make it a bit realistic with like the vent pieces, and using that to kind of create like a spout or like a area where the water is coming out that would eventually flow into the waterway of the entire boardwalk. And I think it honestly turned out pretty well. I think it looks pretty natural and pretty realistic. You can see just enough of the backstage or the back part, like the back wall behind the waterfall, enough for it to be like realistic and convincing, and it looks pretty good. I also added lots of foliage, not only on the rock wall, but also on that concrete part with the waterfall, so it looks really like natural and blended in. And I also recolored the wall and the backstage and the back of the waterfall to blend in with the rock. So it really almost gives that feel of it's trying to be natural, like it looks natural at first glance, but then once you look more deeper into it, you can tell that it's like man-made. So I think that's really cool. I think that's pretty nice, when like, especially when you go to any kind of zoo, when you realize that something like looks like really natural and like untouched in the first time, like how you would see like a moat. You might not even realize that there's a moat in between you and the animal or in the enclosure, and then later on you'll see like, oh, okay, that's what's separating the animal from myself. And I think that's what I really tried to pull here. I wanted to make it look natural and realistic, but I also wanted to give off the idea of it being man-made, because obviously this is a pretty artificial building. There's lots of like features and stuff that come with it. And I think this is overall one of my favorite enclosures of, at least maybe my favorite enclosure out of these 3 enclosures. Probably my favorite is up between this one and the flamingo enclosure for the boardwalk ones, because the flamingo enclosure is pretty hard to beat because I spend a lot of time on that backstage area for the flamingos, and I think that honestly is one of my favorite backstage areas I've built in a while. So I don't know, it's pretty tough for me to rank them, but yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, I also did a significant part of this build. It's also remodeling the entrance. I didn't have this in the time lapse, but I did do this beforehand of making the capybara enclosure. And again, remodeling the entrance is not too different than what it was before. It's still a planter with a few statues, and I used the capybara and the croc statues because obviously we don't have a caiman statue, which is a bit unfortunate. I used those two, and I also made a new kind of concrete sign. I tried to use like a curved part of like the concrete sign to make it look kind of unique and a bit more modern. I think that turned out really nicely. Again, I just stole the font of like America's Pavilion from the other sign and repurposed it into here, just adding that little touch of extra like unique flair to it with like the different shape of the sign. And then I obviously covered it all in foliage. I think I mostly used the birch trees and a couple other ones like the Himalayan trees just to blend it in pretty nicely, and I think it honestly turned out pretty well. I think I like how you like go through the building and like how you go through the entire event. You can either go on the outside first and you go around the entire boardwalk and then come back and then do the inside of it, or you can do the inside of it first and then you on the boardwalk. It really doesn't matter because you end up at the same place either way. I will say that if you go on the outside first, you'll probably see some other species as well as like when you're going like just to the pavilion species, because if you go to the left where you had the sake enclosure, which was in an episode quite a bit ago, about like 10 episodes ago, then you'll also see another animal that is going to be there soon. We haven't built for it yet. I don't know if I'll build for it before we get to the Asia Pac species or switching over to Asia. There's a project I really want to get to in August that I don't want to wait any longer to, because I know that I'll be a bit busier near the end of the year, so I don't want to delay it any further. I really want to get done something in the zoo, which I'm very excited for. So I'm most anticipated like project in the zoo yet. I really want to start, and I've only kind of come up with it recently. So again, the desert house was still, again, it's a very nice project, and I'm really loving how it's turning out so far, but that was really like a spur of the moment kind of thing. But with this, I've seen it done in a couple other zoos, and I've seen like the different architecture people like zoos have done with it, and I really want to try it for myself. And it's something a bit out of my comfort zone, so I really want to try it. And it does include one of the species from the new pack, the Asia Pac. So that is going to be interesting. I really want to try that out. Anyway, so moving back to the enclosure, what have we done here? We've done the entrance. We've done I also replaced the doors of the thing. I did a bit more work during this process that I didn't share in the time lapse. I will probably put it in either the next episode, which will be the final episode of the America's Pavilion, which will be the caiman enclosure plus exhibit hall, kind of, which you do a bunch of windows for exhibit animals wherever I can fit them, as well as the tour of the America's Pavilion, which I don't really know how I'm going to do that because I want to do a progress tour of the entire zoo, but then the pavilion's not finished, so I don't know if I'm like, I don't know, I'm recording this like the day before it goes out. It's July 4th right now, so I don't really know what my plan is too far into like that. Because I am going on a trip next week on the Wednesday and going for 2 weeks. Like, I'll return the next Wednesday. But I've been on a grind a bit recently for like a past week, spending more time on videos and trying to get more out so I can like get more prepared. So I do have videos ready, or at least I should. I still have a few more days to make them, but I should have videos ready for the coming weeks, so you shouldn't really notice I'm gone if it works out right. I have a ranking video going that is going to be hopefully finished. It should be finished. And then I also have another pack art thing going, and then I might do a progress tour, but I don't know about that. It's touch and go. I don't know, because I don't want to do a tour through the America's Pavilion in the progress tour, but then also do one in like the America's Pavilion episode. So it's kind of weird. I don't know. As far as releasing the pavilion into the Steam Workshop, just like we did with Oceania once that was finished and we released it and called it Season 1. Once we finish South America, I will be calling it Season 2 of Oakwood Zoo, because I want to do this in like big sections. So once we finish a continental section of the zoo, then I'll upload it again to the workshop. And so far we have Oceania and most of South America done. We have the rest of the pavilion to do, which is not really much. It's just kind of tying up loose ends. I have the caiman enclosure left, but that is not really too big of an enclosure, and I think I pretty much know what I want to do for it, so it shouldn't be too much to do. And then alongside that, I want to finish up Predator Passage, because that is also part of South America, which is just one enclosure. And then outside of that, I could do a sloth house, and I could also do the Rhea enclosure, but I don't know if I'm going to do either of those, and I might just skip them to come back later on, because I don't really have too many ideas for a sloth house, and I also don't have a lot of ideas for Rhea enclosure. I have like the basic area for it, and I know where it's going, I just don't really know. And it is also a really big enclosure because it's going to be like a grasslands kind of enclosure, so it's pretty big compared to the ones that you've done recently. So I don't know. Anyway, so that is kind of the plans for what I'm going for moving forward. For the rest of July, I'm going to try and finish up South America, again, whatever I can do when I get back from my trip. So there's not really a lot I can do in terms of building in this month, which is unfortunate. But there will be lots of speculative or ranking content coming out, which I obviously know that a lot of people do love that, because they are probably the most well-performing videos on the channel currently, which I'm really enjoying. I love that people are enjoying them, and I know they probably have a further reach than the episode, like the Oakwood episodes, which I don't know. I don't know if I expect it because it's speculation, and a lot of people love a lot. Like it's more common for the speculation content to be pushed through the algorithm than like an Oakwood Zoo episode, because it's a lot more, I don't know, a lot more relevant to a lot of people, and especially because you have games like Jurassic World Evolution 3 coming out later this year, which I am very excited for, by the way. Very excited for that, and I can't wait for that, because I think I wasn't too excited for it, but then I released a video about it, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty good, and then we also saw footage of like a 2-minute clip or whatever from like the gameplay, and we saw a few more things, like the rock tool and the terrain tools, which I'm very excited about. And honestly, we got the modular building coming, which I am I very much enjoy that kind of method of building in games like Planet Zoo, so I think I'll really enjoy it, especially in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Of course, with the baby dinosaurs and stuff, that's kind of like a bonus for me. I don't really feel as much interest in, like, I don't have as much curiosity in that as I do like the modular building and new species. I prefer new species over just baby dinosaurs. I mean, it's fine, but they don't really change that much how you build. I get that you have to place like nests and stuff down, but they're not going to drastically impact how you build. You'll just have to make it a bit larger because you have a family unit now instead of just a couple. Anyway, back to the enclosure. The last part of this enclosure that I didn't talk about yet is the inside part of the capybara enclosure, which is, I don't know, a bit interesting here. I tried to replicate the kind of theming of the Saki enclosure. If you remember that one, it was a decently popular one. It was actually the first enclosure we released for the Americas pack. I tried to replicate that, and if you remember that, you see like the bright blue room with like the very bright blue, like baby blue kind of walls, like the white limestone trim. So I tried to replicate that, but instead I did a dark green, just because I thought it would be cool if each one of these rooms you go through like a curtain or like a PVC strip curtain, and you go through different colored rooms. So you have the light blue, and then you have green, and then I'm thinking the last one, which is gonna be the reptile room, or the insectorium room, I guess, would be like kind of brown, because like dirt and like you're close to the ground, you feel like you're underground with all these little insects and reptiles. So that would be pretty cool to me. Again, I could have also done blue, because again, reptiles, aquatics, water, but we already did that with Saki, and I do really like how that area looks. I don't want to change it at all, so I'm keeping it the way it is, and we're going to do brown instead for the reptile area. But for the capybara area, honestly, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of copying and pasting, and like a lot of keeping up with like the same kind of styles from the Saki enclosure. I used a lot of planters and lots of like the same fence and the same pillars. I really like the idea of like the pillars, and like I love having like those like square pillars, like the plaster with like the nice like bright colors. They look really cool, and it's a very interesting contrast to something like the desert house, which we've done, which is also very colorful, but it's more like using like concrete and limestone, so it looks a lot more kind of like professional. Meanwhile, this one looks a lot more like colorful and more appealing to maybe like a younger audience or a younger visitor in the zoo. So I'm wondering if how that's gonna differ, and I also wonder how it's obviously gonna look in the end result, because we still have one more room to go, arguably a lot smaller and a lot less work than this one, which I still probably won't be able to finish before I go on my trip, which is unfortunate, or at least probably not enough time for me to get an episode out on it, which again is unfortunate. But I think overall, I think I'm going to be really satisfied with how this looks and how this turned out. I do also do a backstage area for the capybaras, but it's nothing really special. I just tried to maneuver the terrain and stuff to make it a flat. Used a lot of the stuff we've already used in other enclosures, like the bush dog enclosure, like those small little fences. So nothing too extra. I feel like it wasn't really necessary to include that. But overall, the inside area of this enclosure looks really cool, and I honestly really like it. I like the color contrast. So anyway, I think that's honestly pretty much it for all I have to say. Again, I will be going on a trip next week. I will still try to respond to comments and anything or any new news, but I won't be making any videos at that time. I'm not gonna drop everything just to record a new video, because that is not really how I want to roll. So anyway, I think that's gonna be pretty much it for all I have to say. Cinematic shots for this build will be coming at the end. I'm very excited to do a trailer and stuff, because this is always my favorite time. When I finish a project or a mini project, I get to make a trailer for it. I get to release it on the Steam Workshop. I'll be releasing the America's Pavilion separately, and then I will be doing a Season 2 trailer as a whole, or a Season 2 upload. So you'll have 2 different uploads. You'll have one of just the America's Pavilion, because I feel like this is a good thing to have separate on its own. And then also I will be releasing the entire zoo on the workshop once we do a couple of the remaining enclosures. We do that, and then we're off to August with a completely new kind of area, which I'm very excited for. I'm gonna see how that turns out. Hopefully it'll turn out pretty good. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button. We are fast tracking on our way to 3,000 subscribers, so I am very thankful for that. And I'm really hoping we can get even more close to it in the coming days, or in the coming weeks, in the coming months, whatever. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did enjoy this video, again, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let me know down below what you enjoyed about the video and what you enjoyed about the enclosure. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Enjoy the rest of the video. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.